I think we are rolling here. So here's what I'm gonna do. Um, Let me drop an opening on this, if you don't mind, John.
Oh, go right ahead.
Welcome back to the Hank
Oh,
Strange Situation, Lifestyles of the Locked and Loaded.
all right. I may remove that. May not remove it. I just want to get that recorded in. All right. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're kind of this is not live, but I'm doing this over Skype, so we're talking to John Crump of AmmoLand. John, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Hank?
Uh, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for coming in. So there's two things that I want to talk to people about, and I figured this would be an easy way to do it because there's kind of two breaking news things right now that we want to talk about here. The first one is Colt is not selling AR-15s anymore. Is that correct?
Yes, they are pulling out of the modern sporting rifle market totally for civilians. They're
Wow.
going to still sell them to military and police.
Okay. That's okay. We're going to talk about that. We'll get into it. I'm sure people out there listening to this or watching this are going to want to get into it. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the news circulating right now about Attorney General Barr, and he has basically a background check memo that's circulating. So we can unfortunately look forward to some more gun control coming at us from Congress in the form of this background check memo, which I'll also get into. You're also aware of that, right?
Correct, I am.
Okay, so let's jump into this and start with the Colt thing. And I believe that there is a memo that the company put up on their website. I'm going to pull that up on my screen right now. Here we go. Okay, so this is what it says. It says Colt News. Company response to questions about Colt participation in consumer markets. So I guess, John, this news has kind of been circulating here for a little while, right? This is not like brand new. Basically, what this is confirmation.
It's confirmation, yes. I started hearing about this a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I could not confirm it, so if I can't confirm anything, I don't report it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pretty confident that it was true. And today they released a statement verifying that it is true that they are pulling out of the market. They are no longer going to be selling AR-15s to the general public.
Okay, so before we get into like reading this memo here, what do you think are the most important bullet points of that? Because for me, what I'm thinking, the most devastating part is that they are going to make AR-15s, but they're not going to sell it to the public. It's only for law enforcement and military. That seems like a betrayal to me. What do you think?
Yeah, according to them, they have contracts that they have to fulfill. So they're trying to say that because we have contracts, we're going to dedicate everything to fulfilling these contracts because there's a high demand between law enforcement and also military for the AR-15. What they say is that there's a lot of different places making AR-15s, so they don't see it viable anymore. Which there is a lot of places making AR-15s, but I think it's deeper than just that.
Hmm.
A lot of people think that it's because of pressure from outside groups,
Hmm.
and Colt, even if that is the case, they're not going to admit that, of course.
Right. Is Colt independently owned? Are they part of a group? Are they traded on the stock market?
They are owned by a number of different people. It's basically, how do I say it? It's not just Colt.
Hmm.
They're owned by like a market capital firm and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. But they're not. The Colt itself is not publicly traded. It's just owned maybe by a group that put together a bunch of money, and then they have Colt and other properties, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's because I know there's going to be a lot of people upset in terms of the history of Colt. So myself as a gun guy and a AR-15 owner multiple times over, I don't actually have a Colt. That's kind of like the coveted thing, right, for gun guys. Colts, especially. I think there's a certain time period that if you have a Colt, it means something. That's one thing I've learned. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. A lot of people think that Colts are like the cream of the crop of the ARs
Hmm.
because they were producing the ARs before anyone else besides like Armorlight.
Right.
But
Yeah. And so, for example, friends that I've known that have served recently have used Colt AR-6920s and stuff like that in combat, right, overseas, and it means something to them. I think there's a lot of gun guys out there right now, like on their knees, crying, "No, no, why did you do it?" So, do you want to jump into the memo? I'll throw it up here
Yeah.
on the screen. Um, Actually, let me see. Here's the memo. Okay, yeah, I'll throw it up on the screen here so people can read it. So, Colt News, company responds to questions about Colt participation in consumer markets. West Hartford, Connecticut, September 19th, 2019. There have been numerous articles recently published about Colt's participation in the commercial rifle market. Some of these articles have incorrectly stated or implied that Colt is not committed to the consumer market. We want to assure you that Colt is committed to the Second Amendment, highly values its customers, and continues to manufacture the world's finest quality firearms for the consumer market. So they want to feel free to jump in here anytime, John, as I'm reading this. But they want to reassure us of that. But they're not going to make AR-15s anymore.
Yeah, we are committed to the Second Amendment unless you own this rifle. Then we're not.
Yeah.
Like this, the way I'm reading it, but they're making a business decision, and there's a lot of pressure on Colt to stop making them because they do have a lot of government contracts. And let's say a Democrat becomes president and stuff like that, will they hold it against Colt that they're producing AR-15s?
Right.
Who knows? Who knows what the reason is?
So according to these people, not to me, the AR-15, which some people have wrongly labeled an assault rifle, that's not what AR stands for. It stands for Armalite. It's like this black evil gun. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we're hearing here.
They treat it as though it's like the ring from Lord of the Rings. When you put it on, it drives you mad.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they think that's what the AR-15 is.
Yeah, that's what it means to some people. To most of us, we know what it is. I mean, even recently, there was a guy, I believe it was in Georgia, that defended his home using an AR-15 against three masked, robbers, armed and masked robbers. So, to a lot of people, it's a freedom tool. It's something that allows you to defend yourself. I always say you don't have anything you can't defend. It's one of the best freedom tools or defense tools that exists out there. Yes, some bad people have used it to do bad things, but that goes for anything. That goes for baseball bats, hammers, cars, planes, all that kind of stuff. They do good things. They're tools that do good things and have changed the world, but people can use them for bad things. Let me jump back in here. So they go on to say, the fact of the matter is that over the last few years, the market for modern sporting rifles has experienced significant excess manufacturing capacity. Given this level of manufacturing capacity, we believe there is adequate supply for modern sporting rifles for the foreseeable future. Okay. I think that part of it I can agree on. I think that we've seen, if you go to SHOT Show, if you see what's going on, it's like everyone's making an AR-15. Can't argue that. There's lots of companies that are just not thinking outside of the box and making AR-15s. So that's convenient cover for them, right?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect cover for them.
Yeah. All right. So let's just jump. Sorry. If you wanted to say something else, go ahead.
I said allegedly that would be perfect.
Why would the person? That's like it's so crazy to to think like the people who were the originators of manufacturing ARs, because everyone and their mama is making an AR, they're like, oh, we're not doing this anymore. I don't know. I'm just not buying into that. Let's go on here. On the other hand, our warfighters and law enforcement personnel continue to demand Colt rifles. See, this to me negates everything that they just said. So it says, on the other hand, our warfighters and law enforcement personnel continue to demand Colt rifles, and we are fortunate enough to have been awarded significant military and law enforcement contracts, which really hurts my soul when these companies, that's all they care about. the military contracts. They can care less about the civilian market. I always held that disdain for HK. Now I have to put Colt in that category. Currently, these high volume contracts are absorbing all of Colt's manufacturing capacity for rifles. Colt's commitment to the consumer markets, however, is unwavering. We continue to expand our network of dealers across the country and to supply them with expanding lines of the finest quality 1911s and revolvers. At the end of the day, we believe it is good sense to follow consumer demand and to adjust as market dynamics change. Colt has been a stout supporter of the Second Amendment for over 180 years, remains so, and will continue to provide its customers with the finest quality firearms in the world. Very respectfully, Dennis Villu, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that properly, President and Chief Executive Officer. So, what was your first thoughts on this when you saw this, man?
I think it's been coming for a while now. You got to admit that the AR market is kind of flooded. I mean, you can pick up an AR for under $350 now from like PSA.
Right.
So, I mean, I can buy into it a little bit, but Colts have been in demand, and the demand's not going to stop just because other people are producing ARs.
Right.
So that part they kind of lose me on.
Right.
I
And
think
they've been the premier brand, so it's like if
Yeah.
Mercedes-Benz has been making cars for probably for a long time. I don't know, over 100 years, right? We can say safely. It's like Mercedes-Benz going, you know what? We're not going to make cars anymore. Everybody's making cars. Right? It's
Yeah.
like Ford saying that. Let's say Ford decides, lots of people out there, Ford fans, or whatever, like, you know what? Ford's like, listen, there's just too many people making cars. We're only going to make cars for the government from now on.
Yeah, I mean that is true,
Yeah.
and I kind of see it that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is tons and tons of political pressure on companies like Colt that have government contracts. And in the end, it's all about making money and protecting their bottom line.
Yeah. So you think at the end here, this is all about Colt keeping up with the government contracts, kind of like trying to play both sides of the fence. They want the government contract money. They want that. They definitely don't want to lose that. They do want, in some ways, they want to keep the civilian market, but they're not going to make ARs anymore for the civilian market. I think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to have it both ways, and I don't know. It kind of sucks for me, man. I don't know what people feel out there. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's what I've been hearing. I've been beating
Yeah.
the bushes on different gun rights advocates and other people, and also people in the industry as well. And the prevailing feeling is it's Colts trying to protect their bottom line by keeping people in government appeased in case, like the Democrats take over.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, and so far as we know that the rifles that Colt's making, other than the AR-15 or 223, 5.56, they were doing what? Were they doing 308? What else were they up to?
I think that was basically it. I don't think they really have too much of a rifle market.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it easier for them to say, "Hey, we're not going to produce any rifles."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm pretty disappointed by this, like by them actually coming out and putting it all out there and letting everyone know. I'm interested to see how everyone's going to react, if they're going to react the same way as me. I know, like you're saying, there are lots of Colts out there. It's always been a highly valued thing, and now Colt is saying, yeah, we're not going to make it anymore. So whoever has it, they have it. Do you think that's going to shoot up the price of Colt AR-15s?
In the short term, I don't think so. In the long term, probably.
Okay, yeah. In the long run, there's obviously a ton of them out there. I think the more valuable ones probably go back to what, like pre like Clinton era stuff,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah,
the pre-bans.
yeah, pre-bans. Okay, so those are the most valuable ones. For the rest of them, there's lots of them out there. I don't know. There's something. And does Colt actually manufacture the lowers? Do you know, or does someone else make them?
It depends.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of tricky.
Yeah, because there's only so many forges here in the country, right? That to make AR lowers.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, most AR manufacturers start out with uh, a forged um, AR.
Hmm.
Like it's not even 80%. I think it's like a 40% or something like that. I can't
Hmm.
remember.
Hmm.
And then they mill it out and stuff. There's only like seven of them in the country that produce them. Maybe I'm wrong with the number,
Yeah.
but Colt, they make some of their higher end ones themselves, not the lowers, but they mill them out and everything.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, like the Expanse line and stuff like that are made by other manufacturers.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to post this. This is not, even though like we're recording it like it's live because the two of us are talking to each other live. John just hit me up and said, "Hey, this is going to be an article that we're putting out." I'm going to post this up, and I think maybe you guys will post something up as well, and we'll leave it here for everyone to let us know your comments. What do you think about this? Do you own a Colt AR15? Did you use it, when you served? What's your idea of this? Are you going to keep buying stuff from Colt, or maybe, are you done with it? Something to think about. When are you guys going to have an article up, John?
I'm writing it right now, so hopefully it'll be up either tonight or tomorrow morning at the latest.
All right, cool. All right, I look forward to that. So, do you want to switch gears now, or do you have some more that you want to say about that before we switch
No, no,
over?
switch gears. There's not too much to know about the Colt right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Yeah, we'll see what everyone's reaction is. If you want to know my reaction, I'm kind of like disappointed in Colt. It's a symbolic move that I don't think they had to do. They could have just run down the production numbers, maybe, and slow. They're obviously still producing it for the military and law enforcement. They could have just supplied those out and just maybe run down what they have on hand for civilians and not done this. It seems like they're trying to, like make a statement to appease someone out there, you know? So that's what I feel about it. All right, let's move on. The other thing we wanted to talk about is the Attorney General, William Barr. He's been going around Congress, right? He has a memo. Some people aren't too happy about this memo. What have you guys heard about it?
It's basically a gun registration
Mm-hmm.
type deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think about it. It's unnecessary stuff on there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an expansion of background checks.
Right. So, do you guys have an article out on this yet, or
I did not write an article. I'm sure there is one up
right?
there though.
Yeah, I'll go in and pull up an article. So for anyone who's wondering exactly what's happening here, obviously Congress has been pushing to what they call close the gun show, right? The gun show loopholes. They want expanded background checks. They've been pushing really hard for that, and a bunch of other things, right? I don't really think that there's anything that's going to make them super happy here. They're gonna get what they can get, make the small cuts, and then move on. Hit us with the like paper cuts, and then move on with other things. So one of the things that's been circulating with the Attorney General is this background check memo. Um, I don't know. Before I was getting ready to make another video on this myself here because I've been putting up these commentary videos, John. And the first question that came to my mind is like, what the hell does the Attorney General have to do with making laws? Is that can someone explain? you know, how does
Yeah,
that work?
it's supposed to go through Congress. Everything's all
Yeah,
screwed
I
up.
mean, obviously Congress makes the laws; it goes to the president. But since when does the Attorney General shop these kind of things? Or has this happened before? Maybe just like where a lot of us are paying attention to it right now.
It's happened before. It's pretty common for
Hmm.
them to like start shopping things, saying, "Hey, this is a possible compromise" and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Because I know lots of people. Because that's one thing I've seen with people who are sending me this kind of stuff. People are always communicating with me through social media, and one of the things they're saying is like, why is the Attorney General involved in the process of making the law when he's supposed to enforce it? I guess this does happen. He sits. He's one of the president's advisors, right?
Yeah, he's one of the president's advisors. When
Hmm.
he brought this to Congress, he said that he had the full support of the president. The White House has pushed back and said, "No, we have no idea what this is," basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know Trump. I think Trump was visiting the border and he was talking about this stuff today. And I'm looking up here. He says, "I won't do anything to hurt the Second Amendment." I don't know
that
if I believe that, huh?
said, yeah, he said, I won't do anything to hurt the Second Amendment, but we're gonna have to make some compromises.
Yeah. Well,
Which is the Second Amendment?
yeah. First of all, his statement that he won't do anything to hurt the Second Amendment, I don't believe him because, in my personal opinion, he's already done some things to hurt the Second Amendment.
More than Obama to hurt it.
Yeah, yeah, and like let's just talk like bump stock. The bump stock ban that he did with an executive order. Basically, he took a piece of plastic, not even attached to a firearm, and made it into a machine gun. That hurts the Second Amendment right there. That hurts it big time. What and it's something that the ATF looked at several times and said that this is not a machine gun. Several times under Obama included, they looked at it and said not a machine gun, and then he made an executive order, made it into a machine gun. It sets bad precedent, and if we don't somehow remove that, then they can go in and do that with anything, and or any president can come in, make an executive order, or push the ATF right
Yeah.
into saying, hey, this thing is a machine gun now, you can't have it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they just changed the definition of a machine gun to fit whatever they wanted to.
Right.
Who to say that their next thing is match grade triggers, since they do speed up the rate of fire, is now a machine gun.
Right, right. And the GOA, amongst other folks out there, have something out on this, which I shared on social media for folks to get out there. If people are watching this and they're like, listen, what can I do about this? Get in touch with the people that represent you in Congress and tell them hell no to this. This time to like make phone calls, write letters, reach out to these people, speak to them on social media, and let them know that we're definitely not going for this. Barr in 1991, when I was researching it, Barr was for semi-auto and magazine bans, amongst other things, right?
Barr has a history of anti-gun stuff. That's why,
Yeah.
for example, the GOA came out so hard against Barr.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is why, like, even when he was getting confirmed, even people on our side were really not supportive of Barr. And like I said, this is just one thing. This is just one thing. I think the reason why Trump wants to slow this down is obviously we're heading into an election year. But if people think that this is going to get slowed down until next year, I don't believe that. Democrats are pushing for something now. So they might be telling us that they're slowing it down, kind of like to keep us in a sleep state. And then the next thing we know, we've got this, and it's on the president's desk. He signs it, and he's thinking that he can get support from the left by doing it. Let me see here. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull up the memo and throw it up here on the screen so we can go through it point by point, if you don't mind, John.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, so let's see what we've got here. Okay, idea for new unlicensed commercial. Let me move it over. Idea for new unlicensed commercial sale background checks. And the background of it says, under existing law, background checks are required for all firearm transfers, right, through federal firearms licensees, FFLs. I happen to be one of those. Detailed information about the transfer is captured in Form 4473, which the FFL must maintain for 20 years. Many commercial sales are conducted outside of FFLs without any background check or record-keeping requirements. It goes on to say, consistent with the Manchin-Toomey draft legislation, a background check requirement would be extended to all advertised commercial sales, including sales at gun shows. Background checks would be conducted either through an FFL or through a newly created class of licensed transfer agents. So that makes me like, what does that mean?
It's very ambiguous. And
yeah, what does that mean? Like licensed transfer agents. What is that
I guess
exactly?
it's going to be a new form of an FFL, but not really an FFL. They're just going to do transfers and not.
What is that, like a notary?
Well, they're going to be running background checks.
Yeah,
So
I know.
Doing the 4473s and stuff. They're just not going to carry any inventory.
Yeah, and one of the things I've been talking about, I have a video out on this, is an app like one of the things they were floating is an app. I don't know if you heard anything about this,
Yes.
but an app so that everyone, if you do a private sale to a neighbor or whatever it is, you have to use this app to background check them. Have you heard anything about that? What do you think about that particular thing?
Anything that stores your information digitally will lead to a registration.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't it doesn't specifically sound like in here that they're going in that direction of the app, but we have no idea what this new class means, because I just don't. We already have FFLs. If you have to go to an FFL, you have to go to a store to do it. You obviously have to go there, you have to pay money and all that kind of stuff. It seems like when we go on here, people will see that they're still involving the FFLs, but this class of licensed transfer agent, I don't know. That's too ambiguous for me. Okay, so it says license. So go on. It's trying to explain what they think a licensed transfer agent is. It says here, and I'll throw it up so people can see what I'm talking about. Licensed transfer agents would not carry firearm inventory, but would be authorized by ATF to initiate background checks for private sales through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, including both A, verifying the buyer's identity, and B, communicating with NICS. So maybe these people are going to have some kind of app, right?
Yeah.
Who are these people going to be? Where are they going to be? I don't know. Okay, so then it goes on. A commercial seller who is not a licensed dealer and does not want an FFL or transfer agent to retain a Form 4473 identifying the buyer could go to an FFL or transfer agent to conduct a background check before completing transfer and generate two forms. One, a bill of sale / chain of title. This form would record the details of the sale, including the identities of the buyer and seller, and be the seller's responsibility. Okay, so basically now your firearm has to have a title, like it's a car or something like that.
Yeah, the chain of custody form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And then two, a new form / certification. This form would be a certification from the FFL or transfer agent memorializing a successful background check, including the serial number, date, and confirmation code. It could also be the seller's identity. Okay. Okay, we're going to come back and talk about that. I just want to go through here so everyone knows what's in the memo. Background checks would be conducted based on the same information as Form 4473. If a denial occurs, a referral would be made to law enforcement. So what they're saying is if you're doing a private sale, you'd have to do this. It's going to be the same thing as a 4473. If a denial happens, you won't be able to obviously sell that gun to someone, and that person would be referred to law enforcement. Okay, if the transaction proceeds, the new form certification in brackets would be generated and sent to the seller. The FFL or transfer agent would not retain any identifying information about the buyer. Therefore, the only documentation reflecting the identity of the buyer would be the bill of sale in custody of the seller. So now you're like an FFL, you're going to have to retain this thing.
Yeah, you're gonna have to retain it, and there is civil penalty if you don't.
Yeah. Let's go on to that part of exactly what's going to happen here, because this is they actually have it in the memo, which hold on here, let me flip this on. Okay, so sellers could retain these records on their own, but many would be expected to choose voluntarily to have the FFL or transfer agent store the records. So
it's kind of putting pressure on them. Like, well, you can store them yourself, but if something happens and you can't form, then you're legally responsible.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't talk about you lost it in a boating accident, which everyone's trying to rely on, and I'm like, that's I know that's a funny joke or a meme, but people should get over that. You can't. These people are too smart for that. Let me read the last part, and then John and I will talk about this. The record keeping requirements would be enforced via civil penalties. Also, so in other words, if you don't do this, there's going to be civil penalties. Also, if a firearm were used in a crime, the seller would enjoy the same civil immunity as FFLs if he could produce the forms from his own records or from those maintained by the FFL or transfer agent. Um, yeah, man. I don't know. I don't like I don't like the sound of any of this.
I don't like the sound of it either.
Yeah.
It's a registration, basically what it is.
Yeah, they can say all they want to that no one's keeping track of this. I guarantee you they're keeping track of it.
Yeah, it's a way to get universal background checks through without saying universal background checks.
Right. And then also what they're saying is if you don't, they're setting people up for civil liability. You know, now obviously when you sell a car, there's a title that goes along with that car. Now what they're trying to do is create a title. This is why I think it's like this is because people are going to say, well, why do you guys think it's it's registration? Because they're in this thing. It says they're creating a chain of title.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like, is there another way to imagine what that is? It's a title, and so they want to create a title for firearms. Okay, and they're like this now is going to be the procedure. This is not just a procedure that's solely for private sales. They want everyone to do this. So if you're an FFL, you're now going to have to do this bill of sale / chain of title thing, and basically someone's going to have to maintain this either way that this goes. So once you have a title, that's registration. And then so consider this like with a car, right? If I have a car, I sell my car to you. Okay, am I responsible right now if you take that car and do something horrible?
No, but they're setting people up to be.
Yeah, this is what's going on here because if and I think that this is the same kind of thing. If you have a firearm, you sell it to someone that you know, neighbor, friend, family member, or whatever, and so far as you know at that time, there's nothing wrong with that person. They're not going to do anything, and then something happens to them in their life, and then they become, for whatever reason, something goes wrong, right? And they do something and they get sued, even if it's defending themselves, by the way. So let's say they defend themselves against someone trying to attack them, but the people's family decide to sue. Could that person come along and go, hey, I'm suing you because you sold this gun to them? And then they're trying to say in here, in the last part, or the second to last part, that if you do this, that you will get the same, what was it?
Same immunity.
Yeah, you'll get the same immunity, but from what we've seen in the news, there's people right now trying to sue manufacturers, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
they definitely are. The immunity clause was put in the Firearms Protection Act of 86, I believe it was.
hmm yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I know that there's lawyers out there testing that right now.
They definitely are. Yeah,
Yeah,
they definitely are. Bushmaster,
yeah,
for example.
yeah. So, I don't know, man. This is like there's a lot of bad stuff here, and I think that what you said, I agree that this is going to be a form of registration because there's a title, and they're calling it chain of title. Chain of title is something solid that you could follow along you could follow the chain, right? A chain means one link and another link and another link and another link, right? So now you're creating these links of what happened with this thing. What the hell is that, man? Isn't that registration?
Definitely is.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is another terrible thing that I think is happening, and Barr is out there shopping it around. And I think there's already on the Republican side there's some guys that are pushing back against it from what I could see in the news. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well. I think we're looking. This is just one thing, and I don't think that the folks on the left are going to be happy with just this one thing. But this
Yeah.
one thing itself is going to be a de facto registration that they're going to be able to push through if they make it happen. And the one thing that I want to say before we wrap up everything, or before I let you say what you have to say here, is remember this is just a memo. So by the time Congress gets their hands on this and people start going, well, I'm not going to vote for this unless you put this thing in and you put this thing in, this could get really, really complicated, right or wrong.
They can get really complicated. Bills now are sizes of books with all the add-ons and everything else.
Yeah, we're just seeing the ideas that they're shopping around. But by the time a lot of those happy idiots out there in Congress get their hands on this and start putting in all the, like, if it sounds bad to you now, it could be really bad is what I'm trying to say. By the time that becomes a law.
It definitely will be bad.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Trump's saying he's not going to do anything to hurt the Second Amendment. This particular thing, in my opinion, hurts the Second Amendment. So what would you say, John, to folks out there who, because I know I post these videos, I put stuff up, people are getting really frustrated. What would you say to the folks out there that are getting frustrated? One, what can they do, and how can they help deal with all this frustration?
Contact your representatives. Go out there, let them know that if they vote for any of this anti-gun BS, that you're not going to vote for them, that they're going to lose your support. Make phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Email them. Do everything you can. Let other gun owners know. Share the information. Share this video that Hank's putting out. So it gets out there so people are aware. What they want to do is they want to operate in the dark where people don't notice what they're doing. So when you shine a light on them, they're like cockroaches. Usually they just scatter.
Yeah, let's use the power of social media that we have and share this stuff and get it out there. I think this is one of the reasons why they're coming down on gun guys like myself, or people talking about, not just gun guys, I mean people talking about stuff in general that they don't want us to talk about and they don't want us to put out to the public, because you're not going to be able to rely on CNN to really tell you what's going on here or give you a valid opinion that's not biased on their side of what's going on. Obviously, we're biased on our side. I'm biased on the side of the Constitution and the Second Amendment. So yes, definitely push back, support organizations that you believe are pro Second Amendment. I'm supporting the GOA, but there's lots of other ones out there. There's Second Amendment Foundation. We can go on and on. There's the NRA for that matter, right? They may not be as they maybe have been hobbled a little bit here with things that are going on, but there's tons of or several organizations out there that are pro Second Amendment. Support them. Let your representatives know what you think about this. And then also, John, how can people get in touch with you?
You can find me over at AmmoLand. If you go down to contributors, they can find me under there. I do have a YouTube channel that I launched recently.
Okay.
Since my life kind of got blown up by YouTube. And that is John Crump 2.
Okay.
Search that. You'll be able to find me.
Right. Yeah. Just look for John Crump. He's writing for AmmoLand. I believe you're part of GOA as well.
I am part of GOA. I am the Virginia State Director for GOA.
Absolutely. There you go. So I'm going to end it here. I'm probably going to split these videos into two, or maybe I'll have like one thing I'll put up on the podcast channel here. I'm not sure. I think we've like gone on here for almost 40 minutes. So I might split it just to make it easier for everyone, because they're kind of two separate things with the same thing. Thanks a lot, John. I look forward to doing this kind of stuff with you again. I think it adds like an extra dimension. I could just get up there and people could just see my pretty face, but now they get to see two pretty faces. And at least get to, huh?
It's the new partnership.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks to the folks at AmmoLand for helping us out. Okay, that's it, everyone. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell so you can be notified whenever we put this stuff up. Make sure you check out AmmoLand. I'm Hank Strange. I'll see you. I'm out of here. Peace.